So in terms of natural processes, wind and rain and that sort of thing, what's the biggest challenge for a photographer out in the wild?
Well, rain can be unfriendly, but a good bag will protect you from that. And I've actually dug myself under rock outcroppings just to get out of rain and snow. And usually Montana will be the place that'll throw you the most, because you can be in the Rockies on a hot August day and it could be 85 degrees and the weather will shift to snow and hail and rain, and then you'll be soaked all the way through, and then the sun will come back out and be 85 degrees in about a 2-hour period of time. Wind will blow and you can get really cold and miserable, and I've been there before with that. You know, but if you're not dealing with that, you know, the elements I think that are the hardest is the cold. It kills your batteries fast. You got to keep them on you constantly in a state of rotation. Lenses do funny things. They don't really always want to autofocus or focus at all. You know, the camera will just do weird things sometimes. But you know, the upside is I've been in probably some of the harshest conditions in this country ever. I've been on the slopes of Mount McKinley in 60 below, hung out of airplanes in same temperatures, 60, 70 below zero, and you know, the cameras have worked perfectly almost all the time. So the biggest challenge tends to be for batteries. As long as you're not hitting them up against rocks, which I do that too, you're usually in pretty good shape.
Cool. Were any of the photographs in your book taken without the tripod? I mean,
without a tripod.
Can you take a good
Sure.
photo without the tripod?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the opening shots of the writer I was with in Big Bend in Texas, with her cowboy hat on in the evening, and the light was just coming through, and she had a ponytail on, and I'm like, this embodies Texas, this place, this experience, and I just was moving around with my camera, and it ends up being a great landscape. It's not just a person shot, but you get to see the border with the U.S. and Mexico and the Rio Grande and a big stretch of Boquillas out in Big Bend. And so that was, you know, a great example of that. Usually whenever people are involved, I'm hand-holding. It's rare that I'm using a tripod. Though the cover of the book was shot with a tripod, because I use neutral density filters to kind of balance everything, and so the exposure times would have been way too long to handhold. But a lot of photographs will be handheld. The tarantulas, any insects when I'm getting close and got to be kind of quick to move. I'll use, and wildflowers even when I'm doing macro. I don't always use a tripod because I want to have a little flexibility in there, and I don't really use a bellows system. So sometimes I'll just fire 100 frames trying to get just a little bit of detail that I'm looking for. So.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I always think I'm a hacker when I don't pull the tripod out to take a photo. You know?
Well, with the new camera, I mean, too, with the 5D Mark II in a high ISO range, I mean, you can get up to an ISO 400 and hand hold and still get great depth of field as long as the light is good. So, I mean, now I probably push that more than ever before, and I can get away with without having a tripod twice as much as I did with my last camera, which was the 5D. But it also is good to slow your process down.
Sure.
You know, the tripod does slow the process down, lets you kind of, you know, the big landscapes, there's a tripod usually involved.
Yeah, you're composing. You're taking more time to compose.
Yeah, and you want to make small movements, small adjustments, and you can't really do that when there's too much happening when you're trying to balance and looking at every corner of the frame, which as a landscape photographer, that's the best piece of advice I could always give, is most people don't ever look at their corners ever. They're looking at the subject in here or in the center and the left in the rule of thirds. But the very edge of the corners, there'll be a branch sticking in, or a telephone line will somehow find its way in. And I'm guilty of it too, but that's the one thing I always start at the corners and work my way in.